We thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Britt Ivy, and today we have with us Jackson County, Oregon, County Commissioner Colleen Roberts. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us today on Passion.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'm really grateful that you could come in and visit with us and share with the viewers what your ideas, thoughts, ethics are surrounding government, and I'm just really happy that you're here. You've kind of decided that part of your platform, as it were, is to show the average American that anybody willing to work hard and study can actually contribute in government, in politics.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that, about how your personal history brought you to running for county commissioner.
Okay, first of all, I like the name of your show, Passion, because I think it contributes to everything we do. But personally, I'm an Oregonian. I was born and raised in Southern Oregon, in Klamath Falls, and my husband was as well. His family's from Bonanza, and we've always lived in Oregon.
Bonanza.
Yeah.
Bonanza.
Oregon.
Oregon. Well, that is so interesting because I just had the privilege of meeting your husband, and he looked like he could be on the television show Bonanza with that great black cowboy hat when I met him. That's great. So he's from Bonanza. You were born and raised in Oregon.
Right, and we moved over to the Rogue Valley when I was in high school. I graduated from Rogue River High School.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and I met Steve, my husband, when we went to college out of Portland. We went to Pacific University, and
Great school.
It is a good school. And when we married, we transferred down to SOU or SOC, whatever it was called at that time. And then we settled kind of in Eagle Point and began our family there. And Steve and I have been married, I was telling you, for 41 years.
41 years. That's amazing in today's world. That's almost unheard of.
It goes fast.
It's almost unheard of. Congratulations.
It could go a little slower. But Steve and I had three boys, and in 1989 we moved out even farther to Prospect, and I'm a true county commissioner.
Perfect.
And the boys all have gone on with careers and families of their own, and I have 13 grandchildren, and our oldest is just turned 13. So
wow.
They're all pretty little,
Okay.
and a blast, really fun. And two of the boys, their families live in Southern Oregon area, and one of my sons our oldest son lives in Southern Washington State. So we're not too far apart.
Wonderful. So you're a strong family gal.
Yes, I love my family. It's fun.
Local. You didn't come here from outside and try to throw your ideas at how to solve problems here. You've actually been here, lived here. You're a business owner. You have your own bread company. And we have a fun bakery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And we have a fun story about that coming up.
Yeah. Right? Well, it wasn't fun at the time, but it is a nice looking back at. But I have a bachelor's of science in business and an MBA. And like I say, I began my business in the 80s in my home in Eagle Point. And we opened our first storefront in the early 90s and are still at it. And so, and I also am really involved in my church. I am the piano player. I play keyboard and piano every Sunday.
Perfect.
And I get to be involved in children's ministries there as well. So
excellent.
It's
I can play
busy.
3 songs on the piano. I can claim fame for 3 songs on the piano. One's The Entertainer.
Oh, wow.
And the other is Chopsticks.
My favorite.
And the third, I don't know the name of. Some beautiful piece that someone taught me.
Oh. Yeah. It's very, I love playing and practicing it. I hadn't played for ages, and when we moved to Prospect, we went to a little church up there, and they didn't have a piano player. And I said to my husband, I could play piano, and he didn't even know I played. I hadn't had a piano in my adult life, and I said, but I've got to get a piano so I can practice. And so we told the pastor, I said, if I get a piano and can practice, maybe I can play. And he goes, next week? And I said, no, I got to practice first. But fortunately, it was off track. But my son was playing trombone in the band, and that's the bass notes, and so he helped me. I had to pretty much train myself to play, but I've been playing ever since.
Well, that is a talent. So one thing I just really like about you, Colleen, is your humility. You're very humble because you're an accomplished woman. And I'd like to get to some of your ideas about government. You want to make government smaller. And you come in, you're very easy to relate to. You know, people really enjoy being around you, and you're fun, but you're also very smart and you have some vision. So tell me a little bit about your vision for where you see your position taking you. You are going to be running again.
Yes, I'm up for re-election next year.
Hopefully elected. But tell the audience a little bit about your thoughts and your beliefs about why you think government should be smaller and how you want to contribute to doing that.
Well, I do believe, my philosophy is government should be small, it should be accountable, and it should be transparent. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of conversely in being small to private business. You know, when you go to work for a company, you want to do more and you want to make it bigger and you want to grow. But, you know, a bigger and more intrusive government does not relate to freedom and liberty that we all want to live as citizens in Jackson County or Oregon or our country, you know. And I just think, and it's a real challenge. I think it's probably maybe the rub of maybe politicians into politics, that it's a real tendency to grow and think government has all the answers when I don't necessarily vote that way or go that way. I think the smallness and the government out of the way helps families, it helps business. You know, as a business owner, you see the intrusion of government in our lives, and you wonder how many politicians have had a business and tried to run one in our regulatory society.
I agree. I
needs to
absolutely
be
agree.
Rolled back, and my vote is always to make less regulation, less fees, and less intrusion in Jackson County into our private lives and our businesses and our families.
And if you've been a career politician your whole life and not been in business, how are you to understand how to create jobs for people, understand the needs of employees, etc.? So I like where you're coming from with that. You've had your business for many years. It's still running. And there's no conflict of interest with your business, I know, because of the fun story we shared about.
Well, so when I first,
I'll let you tell it.
When I first took office, and I went through all the training, and all the training, you know, we had in Jackson County and we had with the Association of Oregon Counties, there's a portion of the ethics, you know, that really you have to pay closely attention to as an elected official, both for your protection and the protection of the citizens you serve. And so when, you know, there's statutes that an elected official can't make a profit from their position or promote, you know, their business through their position. And I just shortly after I'd taken all that training, I had a personal appointment with some businessmen who...
And I'll interrupt you there and just finish this story out for you, that you handed out your business card without thinking.
Yes.
And then we're so concerned about being straight and narrow, went right to the ethics committee and said, oh my gosh, I handed out my business card. And they held I don't want to say ceremony.
A hearing.
They had a hearing, and you showed up, stated what happened, and basically, I think they were surprised that somebody was so out front, and just kind of said, well, okay.
I left them speechless. They're like,
bye-bye.
what do we do with her, you know?
Yeah, right.
And anyway, they just dismissed it all. And
Great.
I just told them, I said, I hope to never see you people again. And I haven't.
Perfect.
But yeah, it is, you know, in private business, you just network and you do this and you kind of do everything together. But in my service as a commissioner, that just is a total separate activity, and I don't carry my business cards anymore. Right. I just leave it out. So. And I try to take care of that more carefully.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you from all the citizens, I'm sure, for your transparency and being quick on the ball to make sure that everything is straight and just how it should be, above board. I really want to make sure we have time to speak about, just kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what's happening in the county and actually in the entire country in regards to fires and these out-of-control mega fires. So before we do that, we had a clip that we can show in a subsequent show when we have that particular piece of equipment working. But I wanted to defer to you in case there's something that you wanted to address before we got into the fire issue, because that is a heated issue right now with people being burned alive and losing millions of animals and acres and industry. So
yeah, and I think our county just passed a resolution that really gets to the heart of the problem, in that we have become a culture of policy making that has included fire management and fire policies and let it burn policies through collaboratives and through agencies that have come in with their agendas to form these policies. And the more I've looked into them through statewide and what our counties have been involved in, there's piles of these collaboratives that have put in these fire resilient landscapes that are coming back to bite us. And you know, my thought is, if they were successful, I'd say great. But they're not being successful, as we've seen locally in our fire season, and as we're seeing in California with the devastation they're having there. And when the Forest Service has given presentations, and in their documentation throughout every page, heavy fuel loads is documented in all of that. And that has been because we haven't been managing our forests.
Right. It's very painful to see. I think people just don't really quite understand, after 30 years having the fuel loads get to the denseness that they are now. I think people just really don't understand. It started out with such a concern about, let's not cut down a single tree, and it became this, you know, us and them type thing. And there really is a middle road. It doesn't have to be cut down every tree. It doesn't have to be don't cut down any trees. And then you have all these litigation causes happening that really throw things out of whack. Basically, they keep the focus on litigating rather than solving a problem. For example, 30 years of dense forest. Well, let me just back up a minute. If you have a policy of where you don't want to cut any trees, or you want to, say, protect a species, and the forest fuels are allowed to just grow to the point of they'll just incinerate anything in their path once a fire gets started, I should say, then they burn every single animal they're trying to protect. Now, I've heard as much as 70 animals per acre, two-legged and four-legged, but let's say it's only 20 animals per acre are lost. Do the math. We just had a Chetco bar fire, almost 200,000 acres.
They're saying in our state.
That's 2 million animals.
Yeah, they're saying in our state 600,000 acres.
Well, it's
just in the state of Oregon.
Just in the state, exactly, and Montana, and at any rate, just the last few days, it's been devastating to hear all my friends that are evacuating out of parts of LA, and we have other friends who've lost family businesses that have been around for decades, wineries in Santa Rosa, someone who saw a family member just burn alive in front of them. And I don't think the people that are so nervous about cutting down a tree are realizing that, you know, we're not trying to go out and clear cut anything, but I don't want to hear more stories about people I know burning alive in front of other people. So enough of that.
And another aspect is the road closures, which I have fought since I took office. And even our own Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument, they closed about 160 some miles of roads. And what do we fight fires with when the roads are closed? And so there's other issues also connecting with this that need to be handled a different way. And I don't know that I see that happening yet. Like with the state of Oregon, there's a group called the Federal Forest Working Group. It used to be called the Federal Forest Advisory Committee. And there's a Good Neighbor Authority. It's something our governor signed in earlier this year. And so this working group's seeing how they can put it into play. Well, it's just another circumventing of local control and local input by your elected officials, by a bunch of agencies that want to make the policies. And we've seen that devastatingly not work in where we are today. Right. And so we're really pushing to put a stop to that, expose all this to what it is, put a stop to that, and get it back to follow the law. And so We
Wonderful.
hope that's what our resolution, I think, aims at with
Congratulations
what we passed in
on
Jackson County.
That is a big win, and I know you have been supportive of a gentleman who's got a bit of a controversial solution to wildfires. However, the more I look at it, the less controversial it seems and the more simple it seems. And a pilot program is being worked on to basically use horses, native wild horses, just let them loose instead of Secretary Zinke having to spend $80 million a year to keep them alive. They've trapped them in corrals. To let them loose in small numbers and let them eat the grass and the woody shrubs that we have film, actually, we don't have time to play it today, but film of them eating the woody shrubs and all sorts of plants and doing that for free. And then you don't have chainsaws and other things that start fires in the wilderness.
Right, and I think they can get to areas that we can't even get to manage, you know, that are increasing the fuel loads in our forests. And Captain Bill Simpson has been in touch with me, and I've put him in connection with the Department of Interior, and he's working with them, and I know we're having the conversations of how that can be accomplished, because these horses are just set to be killed.
Right.
And where are the animal activists on this one, you know? But
That's an
that they
interesting
can
point.
be used, but I think it needs to be used in balance.
Of course.
We've got cattlemen that graze cattle, we've got areas they don't graze, and the horses could take care of that remote areas to reduce those fuel loads.
Well, we were going to try to shorten this show, and we're actually going to just take it to its regular length because there's so much to discuss here.
Okay.
And I'm just thrilled that you are also supportive of this simple solution. So instead of us and them, there are actual simple solutions out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? They eat too much grass and we say, okay, that didn't work, rein them in. What's the worst that can happen there when you have people and animals, and people don't think about their own dog or their own cat, you know, say 20 of them in the forest, in 1 acre, in their backyard, their pets, burning alive in front of them. They don't think of that. So why are we dehumanizing the other animals in the forest just because we haven't named them and feed them chow every morning? You know, it's just kind of like masses of people. You can not put a face on them, and it's okay on the other side of the world to let them burn or let the horrific things that have happened. That there would be a whole nother show if we start talking about that, but just we'll keep it to our county. I just want to thank you for being open-minded to some citizens. I know Captain Bill Simpson spoke at Senator Alan DeBoer's town hall recently here in Ashland, and Senator DeBoer's just been wonderful, step in the position that he's stepped into and stepped up to. And we have so many great people in this area. I have the best time on this show because I have the best guests, and the more I learn about people that really are concerned with having politics become something that is more of a solution-oriented occupation instead of a us and them and whatnot, I really am enjoying that. So thank you for being open-minded and considering what the citizens bring forth. I know that you're really appreciated by that. I've heard that from many people.
Well, thank you. Well, that's who I came to represent, is the people. It's there. That's why I said it's the people, you know, government for, of, and by the people. It's not just the governments. And I think our new administration has been open to new ideas, like Captain Bill Simpson's idea. And it's not a new idea. I mean, this is a federal horse and burro program that's already been in place. And so...
And it's modified now that we know that they're native species. So there are a lot of myths out there that he is clearing up. And you mentioned horse advocates. I mean, Disney doesn't keep making blockbuster movies because they don't make money. The American people, they love horses. I understand there are 20 million horse advocates in the country. That's a lot of voters.
Yeah.
And back to the Disney movies, we had Secretariat, we had Seabiscuit, that beautiful true movie about that horse uplifting the human spirit during the Depression when, you know, it was just a horrible time in our country. Then we had War Horse recently. I don't know if you saw that. I'm whacking my mic here. It was heartbreaking, but but true stories. I mean, horses carried our people into battle for years. But anyway, it's not just about saving horses. Captain Simpson's program is really about a fire
Fuel
abatement
reduction.
solution. Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you go ahead now, since I just kind of hogged the last few minutes here.
No, I agree, and I think that is something that can be a tool and is being used, to possibly move forward. And I know our conversation with our BLM directors and with the Department of Interior moves forward with that as well. So, but it's all a full aspect of forest management, and it's kind of one of my liaisons is the Federal Forest Management and our ONC, the Oregon California Railroad lands that are part of their management is directed by Congress to be sustained yield harvest, and that's what those lands were set aside for. In fact, when we went, the ONC commissioners and I was on by phone with the Federal Forest Working Group meeting. They met in November, and they acknowledged ONC lands are set aside. And it is the first I've ever heard anybody acknowledge that. And that's
Congratulations.
such a big breakthrough. And I said, it's because we were there and we were watching. It's not just being left to agencies and not the commissioners that are there that care and want something different done.
Right. Wow. Well, congratulations on spearheading a lot of that and moving that forward. I understand you work very well with your commissioners, and that's a blessing, I'm sure.
We do. We work together well. We have some of our disagreements in, mainly I sometimes have a lone vote in
Once
things.
in a while, you're the lone
and
vote.
And so, I brought my no button.
N-O.
And it has all kinds of different no's. Well, I ran across, this is one of my other funny stories.
We need a yes button, too.
Very rarely. I ran across these ink pens that are no, and they do the same thing. They push them in with a different no. So my commissioners and I was no, and they were yes on a few things. I finally gave them a presentation of their no pen, so they could come to the meeting and vote with me, and they wouldn't have to use their voices.
Never boring with you, Colleen.
No.
Never boring.
It's
I love
always,
that.
it's got to be fun. But anyway, and they accepted it and the good humor was given. But we do,
great.
and I have, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the things that I have in my stand for small government, and I'm consistently a no vote on increased fees and regulation against our citizens, or it would be imposed on our citizens.
Sure.
And in this last budget time, we were talking about fee increases. I recommended a moratorium just for a year. Jackson County's really experienced a huge growth, economic growth spurt. I feel we see it in our planning department and
Wonderful.
in business. I mean,
Building.
it's doing well. And I said, when we're growing, does increasing fees inhibit or complement economic growth? And I said, I'd like to see it for a year. Just put a moratorium on fee increases.
And
But
did that pass or not?
no.
Okay. All right.
2-1 vote on that one.
Okay.
So, and then also a real, kind of a passion of mine is looking at the Chapter 294. It's our hearings officers with our code enforcement department. And it was created in 2003, and it was to be looked at. It was put in as a, I don't know if temporary is the word, but a trial to take the violations that come through our code enforcement, instead of going to circuit court, they go to a hearings officer. And I really, concerns me that I know it's been proven to be, our administrative law has been proven to be okay, but I find it concerns me with our Constitution, where people maybe should be able to take their case to circuit court instead.
I see.
But it's still being looked at, but hopefully my commissioners will bring their no pen, right?
Right.
But anyway, we're looking at that, and I just think we just passed 2-1 an increase on those fines and violations, and so
Well, you've had a lot of success in your first term.
we're busy.
You're definitely busy. You're definitely
So-
busy. And you mentioned Congress, and it's been very gratifying to receive some congressional support for the wild horse advocacy you were speaking about, because you were instrumental in having that looked at by the Department of Interior. So it was pretty exciting to have congressional letters set forth that show that it's actually going up line for further vote, so they can they can look at
They
that
can look at it, yeah. And
as
it would
a solution.
Yeah, and it would be something they direct our agencies for management. And
Right.
so it's neat to be working together at all levels. And I think, my connection with the Department of Interior was through the ONC Association. And I met a gal named Cynthia Moses Ned at several events, and she works for the Department of Interior, and she's kind of who I put everybody through to go to the Department of Interior. But
Perfect.
so the connections have been really, what I've been involved in, have been really helpful into helping our citizens
Great.
have those connections.
Well, I certainly hope you'll come back on Passion and fill in our viewers a little bit more about what you're doing as you
Certainly.
go forward over this next 2018 year and see what it brings. I know there's a lot happening, marijuana, all sorts of different things that have kind of come on board during your term here. So I think we've got a lot of fuel.
And on a
to speak
positive
about.
note, our board has worked unanimously and united on several things.
Good.
One is our resolution on the fire and smoke. We were united in that effort. And one thing that isn't maybe united statewide, but we as Jackson County Commissioners took us out of the Association of Oregon Counties. And
Wow, that's a big move.
it was.
That's
It was a
move.
big decision to do. We felt, many things went into that decision, but
Right.
our board was united on that as well.
Well, congratulations. That's a big step, and I understand it was a huge financial savings. So I like that you guys are wise stewards with the funds. I think you saved about $50,000 in that one issue, and we can talk about that on a subsequent show. I would love to have you back on, Colleen.
Okay, well,
the
thank
time
you.
just
Boy,
flew.
it sailed just
flew.
like time does.
It does. Well, I appreciate your being a woman of solutions, and if you're going to complain about something, get in and do something about it, and
Go
that's
do
what
it.
you've done. All right. Well, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Britt, for
Look
having me
forward to
on.
having you back on. Thank you so much for joining us on Passion. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.